I'm awful sorry. For anything?
I'm voting
Trying
yes
something
for
new
the,
tonight.
for the racetrack. So am I.
Yeah.
Why won't this be louder? How do I make these things louder?
Oh boy.
Very, very quiet. It's good, very hushed. Okay. You want to do the pledge?
Mics are high.
Yeah.
Sitting in the John.
Mics are high.
Aisle.
Oh boy, what's he doing?
Is sitting on the aisle seat toward the back.
Okay, we all set?
Mr. Johnson.
Good evening. Charter Township of Plymouth Board of Trustees, regular meeting for Tuesday, February 28th, 2023 will come to order. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Trustee Stewart.
Here.
Trustee Monahan.
Here.
Trustee Kermy.
Here.
Trustee Buckley.
Here.
Clerk Vorba here. Treasurer Dorshevitz.
Here.
Supervisor Heisey.
Here.
All present, we have a quorum.
Very good. Pledge of Allegiance tonight will be led by Trustee Audrey Monahan.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic to which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Okay, next is approval of the agenda.
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Clerk.
I move for the approval of the agenda for Tuesday, February 28th, 2023.
Motion is made by Clerk Vorba. Is there a second? Second by Trustee Monahan. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next is item D, approval of the consent agenda.
Supervisor Heisey,
Yes, sir.
I'd like you to take off the item on the paving project so we can discuss it.
Okay. That leaves us with the MDOT right-of-way and the bills. Any comments or questions on that? Hearing none.
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Clerk?
I move for the approval of the agenda as amended for Tuesday, February 28th, 2023.
Motion is made by Clerk Vorba. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Monahan. This will require a roll call vote, sir?
That is correct. Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Treasurer Dorshevitz.
Yes.
Clerk Vorba, yes. Trustee Buckley.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, that brings us back to item D1A. This is the contract award for Powell Road and Township Park Drive paving. Jeremy Schroet, engineer, please tell us what this is all about.
This is the contract award for two different projects, one for the repaving of Township Park roadway, essentially from the entrance all the way up to the concrete parking lot on the north. And then the other is for the paving of what we're calling Powell Road Extension, which is east of Beck Road all the way up to the golf course. These are projects that we discussed as part of the ARPA improvement projects and went through a few different rounds of. Put these out for bid, received 6 bids, all of them. The top 5 were within $18,000 of each other. Top 2 were within $2,000, so very competitive bids.
Okay, any questions from the board?
Yes. The paving of Powell Road as a driveway for the Township Hilltop Golf Course. We haven't really talked about this a lot. It's in the budget, I know that. A year ago, we were going to do the entrance on Ann Arbor Trail. We paid for the engineering, we were ready to go. Then there was pushback from the neighbors and maybe 1 or 2 very influential people got it turned around. This is not a permanent solution. It doesn't solve the safety problem at Beck Road, and it doesn't solve the better accessibility from a marketing reason to improve the viability of the golf course. So my recommendation is let's take this off and do, for example, parking. If we have money, we could improve the parking. This fix will not change or improve the parking situation, other than people, instead of parking on the road in the mud, they'll park on the road on pavement. So this is not completely vetted, in my opinion, and I know there's a not in my backyard thing. There's a person that wrote a very good letter. He had some good ideas about the golf course and this situation. I think we need to do more homework. I wouldn't spend $270,000, although I realize it's somebody else's money. It's the federal government, ARPA, but I think there's a better place to spend our money.
Okay. Any other questions, comments by the board? All right, is there a motion on this?
Yeah, move to split the Powell Road paving off from this motion.
Is there a second? Okay, the motion dies for lack of support. Is there a motion on the full package?
Yes, just 1 second, let me pull it up. You want to just rejoin? No, we've already voted on the other part. So this is just on the Powell Road
No,
portion.
no, we've never separated the two. So this
Okay.
is a single resolution dealing with Powell Road and the Township Park.
I move to adopt Resolution 2023-02-2812, authorizing the Board of Trustees to approve the award for the Powell Road and Park Drive paving project to A1, is it A1 or ALS?
Al's.
ALS
Al?
Asphalt in the amount of $556,073.15.
Motion's been made by Clerk Vorba. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Treasurer Dorchevitz. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Clerk Vorba, yes. Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Trustee Buckley.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
No.
Trustee Treasurer Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Next up is public comment. This is the public comment portion of tonight's meeting. This is not your only opportunity for public comment. There will be another public comment period at the end of the meeting, and we encourage comment on individual agenda items as well, as long as they are germane to that particular item. If you wish to speak on the matter of the racetrack tonight, I would ask that you respectfully hold your comments until we get to that portion of the agenda, which is coming up next. If you are here, hold on. If you are here on the from the Woodlore neighborhood, if you are here on any discussion regarding an entrance to the golf course off of Ann Arbor Trail, that matter has been settled tonight. We approved the repaving or the paving of Powell Road, which is the entrance to the golf course. So if you were here from Woodlore, off of Beck. So we are not doing any entrances or exits off of Ann Arbor Trail to the golf course. So if you're here from Woodlore, or if that's a matter of concern to you, you can stay or you can leave, but that's okay, you can stay. We would encourage that as well. But if you're here on that issue, it has been resolved. At this time, we are open for public comment on non-horse racing issues. Pursuant to the Michigan Open Meetings Act and board policy, you have 3 minutes to comment. I would ask that you state your name and community of residence prior to speaking. Please address the Board of Trustees with your comments. I will be keeping time on my cell phone, and when your 3 minutes is up, a chime will sound, hopefully. It may not work the first couple times, I'm not that tech savvy, but we'll work through it. Also, pursuant to board policy, members of the public wishing to speak cannot yield their time, share, or exchange your time with another member of the public. The objective is to give ample opportunity for everyone to speak who wants to, and to run an orderly and fair meeting for all. So, at this time, in the normal public comment period, is there anybody here on anything that's non-horse racing or hopefully not Woodlore North matters? Yes, sir.
Howard Hamrick, Ridgewood Hills.
Would you please speak into the microphone?
I think I can speak loud enough. I do this for
No, I recorded.
Oh, for recording purposes, I understand. Howard Hamrick, Ridgewood Hills, longtime township resident since '72. I am totally in agreement with Mr. Kermy, Trustee Kermy, on this. That intersection is a disaster. And it's on that four-letter road that we will speak of later in this meeting when we go to those public comments. If you've ever tried to get on Powell Road or onto Beck Road off of Powell, you don't live in where I live. And that is an area I never even try to address, and that's all day long. And that's one of the biggest problems we have. I'm sorry that you made a decision that is really going to create some problems and traffic down the road. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
I'll try to keep it to the 3 minutes. My name's Jeff Burnham. I'm from Salem Township, and I've just got some statements to read about the development on 5 Mile and Napier, the southeast corner. Hi, my name's Jeff Burnham. I reside at 6970 Napier Road, just south of 5 Mile. I'm here today due to the direction received from the planning office to come to the trustees meeting to further discuss my concerns and frustrations of the proposed, the process followed regarding the approval of the new mega warehouse project at southeast corner of 5 Mile Napier. I don't believe that the process of an open hearing regarding the project or proposed variances were followed properly. I'm a property owner that directly borders the planned development of the mega warehouse. My understanding is that all property owners within 300 feet of the proposed development and where zoning variances are proposed should be directly notified so that there's an opportunity for public hearing. These important due process steps were not considered, at least not followed, as I and the other property owners that border that proposed development were not notified. Following this process is extremely important, as it is the right time in the process for the people directly affected by the new development can voice their concerns. Without this voice, the zoning board does not have the opportunity to really understand how the project and ultimately their decisions affect real people that will be impacted. One example that absolutely deserves public hearing are the proposed variances. This would be the opportunity for the property owners to provide real concerns and ideas to the zoning board. On the video of the meeting, there was some discussion regarding how the building would look from 5 Mile aesthetically. While this is important, there was no concern on how Napier Road would be impacted. There was a proposal to approve a variance to increase the maximum allowable height of the building from 35 feet to 50 feet. This on its own might not seem like a huge deal, except that it was coupled with a variance to decrease the setback from 20 feet to 6 feet off of Napier Road. This combination becomes unreasonable and illogical. Reading through the zoning rules, as the building receives variances to be taller, the setback should be increased 1 foot per foot of height variance. This makes sense. As the building grows taller, it must move further from the road, not closer. I question if the zoning board even considered the impact of reducing a variance to just 6 feet off of Napier, a 50-foot building towering over the homes that share the same property line, a 6-foot setback. That's as tall as me, 6 feet. I can only assume that the zoning board did not consider the impact surrounding the property owners because they are far removed from the area and don't have the knowledge to best represent the community. This is the reason for having a public hearing before proposals are approved. This is the opportunity to notify property owners, invite them to a public hearing, and gain the invaluable insight and opinion that is needed to make the best decisions for all. In conclusion, by not following the process properly and denying the neighboring property owners due process to take part in this decision, we were all denied the opportunity to have the best possible outcome for this project. This is not fair to the people directly affected, but it's also not fair to the zoning board, as they were robbed of the valuable input needed for good decisions. Can I continue for 30 more seconds?
Yes.
There is reason for this process. There is a reason that direct notification must be provided. There is a reason for public hearing, and there is a reason that there are zoning rules in place that must be discussed to consider variances. Unfortunately, reason was not a factor in this case. I asked the board to take a few steps back and follow the process properly. Send out a notification as required. Plan a public hearing. Take the inputs from all parties and review the plan and variances. I think you'll find that your initial conclusions and approvals might not seem so reasonable, and changes might be necessary. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Before he goes away, I want to hear is this the zoning board of appeals?
ZBA, yes.
CBA.
So this was ZBA,
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
and who's responsible for sending out the notices?
The building department.
Did you get a notice?
No.
We have addressed the issue. I've sent him a very lengthy email
And I
describing what
responded that
happened.
it's not been addressed.
Well, I know you disagree with my opinion, but
So it was an employee error.
most likely, yes.
That doesn't replace the
I
due
apologize.
process.
If that's having a thing like this in your backyard without knowing. So I don't know what.
It was published, it was published.
We complied, we complied with all other notice requirements.
There was
I-
no
we-
notices to
see,
any of
this
my
is where-
neighbors
this is
on
where-
Napier Road.
This is where it
So zero
goes.
neighbors got it?
0 neighbors.
I've had,
There was no direct notification, which is required. There
That
was
is-
no,
Okay,
a chance for
so
me
here's-
to ask
so-
for public hearing.
so here's the
I've been eliminated from my due
okay,
process.
so here's the situation. Our building department staff we investigated the situation. Our building department staff says that you were the only one who was missed.
That's not correct. I
All
had
right,
all my
all right,
neighbors that were missed
all
as
right,
well.
all right,
There was
all right,
no
okay.
notification.
Okay.
Okay, we can't have that.
So,
Liars in the
okay,
middle.
Chuck,
I can tell you from
Chuck,
the answers.
it's my meeting, okay? If this is not, you're you're already apologizing for staff and stuff. I mean, it doesn't work that way.
Yes, it
So,
does.
no, it doesn't.
Truth
It doesn't.
matters.
Oh, Chuck, please,
The
come
problem is,
on.
when we get into it as a board here, then this gentleman's thought process and everything else gets lost, okay? Let him speak, let him get off.
you talking to?
I'm talking to him.
This is the zoning board is a legal proceeding. He has certain rights under the law. You have told me that you have already consulted with an attorney. So I would recommend that you do that again and direct any other questions on what happens next to our township attorney. We can't take questions from the audience. So I'm just telling you what the next steps are.
I've finished my statement.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else?
Is Comcast having a problem?
Why?
Because I just got a text that,
I don't know what's happening with Comcast. You gotta check
Well, when
with, you have to
everybody
check
starts
with,
yelling, I mean,
you have
that's
to
a
check with
problem.
Sue.
Oh, yells can be heard.
Who's yelling?
No, I'm saying when everybody talks over each other on this board, it's
All
just
right.
very difficult.
Okay, yes, sir.
I'm sure.
Hi, I'm Brian Nazardy. I'm a resident of Plymouth on Forest Avenue. I'm here on behalf of Andy Malm, who lives on Lighthouse Lane in Plymouth Township. This is regarding the entrance, Apollo entrance to the golf course. Understand the matter's been settled, but I would urge the board to reconsider that. You could debate the fiscal responsibility, where the money comes from, long-term, short-term, I get that. But I have a couple of questions for Jeremy. First of all, is the paved road going to have speed bumps
Are we talking about Powell Road?
into the golf course?
No, there's no speed
Okay,
bumps into the
so
golf
you've
course.
just created a raceway with alcohol. Yeah, that's part of the opposition from Woodlaw. Second question is, was there a traffic study done to compare the two entrances before the expenditure by Wayne County?
By Wayne County, no.
They own the roads, correct?
Yeah,
So there should have been a traffic study to assess the safety, because if it is a safety problem, you should know that going into it, correct?
but why would the number of cars be any different? It's the same number of golfers.
No,
just coming
it's
in a
not just the
different
number of
place.
cars, it's the design of the roads, it's how the cars enter and exit the roads. There should have been a traffic study. Okay? So if you want to make a good decision for safety, traffic study should be the first step. If it's a fiscal only, I get it. And you could even debate the finances, that this is a short-term game versus a long-term fiscal responsible decision. So I appreciate you already made the decision without public input. I got that. I know Andy Malm was in contact with some of you, and you acknowledged that there was some, email discussion, but I would ask you and urge you to reconsider for safety reasons, if for no other reason at all. Thank you.
okay. Anybody else? Come on down. Come on down.
My name is Sandy Raymond. I reside at 10780 Sherry Lane.
Get
which is-
closer.
Which is just off of Napier. I completely support Mr. Burnham's concerns, for one. Additionally, I have concerns about the environmental impact. That's a real concern of mine. We live on Johnson Creek. This property that's being developed borders Johnson Creek. I have concerns about runoff there, especially with the number of vehicles that are going to be coming and going from that property. Even if there's some sort of pavement there to keep it from going into the ground, which I don't, I'm concerned about the groundwater and I'm concerned about runoff into the creek. With respect to Napier Road itself, as you may or may not know, it's an unpaved road. It's been difficult to maintain that road as it is. It's often washboardy. There's two 90-degree turns in that road that the Burnhams have had 30-something cars in their front yard over time. I got to imagine that with a development of that size, there's going to be may or may not be truck traffic, but there's going to be, employees who are going to be coming and going from work that I got to believe at least some of them are going to be on Napier Road, increasing that traffic and the risk, the wear and tear on the road, the risk, the safety of the risk for the two 90-degree turns there that have been a problem for years. So aside from the legal concerns, I'm concerned about the environmental concerns. So I
That's
wanted to bring
Salem,
that to your
right?
attention.
Yeah.
So you're talking about this parcel here? Yeah.
It's on the border between Plymouth Township and Salem Township.
Right.
So Napier, the border goes straight south here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Napier jogs out and
Yeah.
jogs
Yeah,
out.
it
jogs
makes a
into Salem.
couple of 90-degree turns between 5 Mile and North Territorial.
Where's the gun club?
Right here.
And the dump is right up there, and
Guns in a dump.
So the gun club is in Plymouth Township,
part of it.
Yes. Part of it or the whole
most of
thing?
it, or almost all of
I
it.
think the entrance is in Salem, but
Yeah,
the whole thing is there.
Yeah,
The entrance is in Salem.
yeah, you're right.
Right there, yep, that's the Burnhams right there.
Right here. Well, the truck traffic is not going through there. It doesn't,
But there'll be more
It's-
other traffic.
they're taking
people
5
coming,
Mile.
going to work, if there's 150
Okay.
truck bays, there might be 150 employees going up and down that road.
And they take Ridge too. I know that. Live out.
Okay, we can't have that. So, okay, all set?
Yeah.
All righty, thank you. Anybody else? Yes.
Laura Obersanek from Napier Road, Salem out there too. And I support Mr. Burnham 100%. I did not receive a notice, and I'm across the street from this giant warehouse.
Where's
And
your,
this was-
where would you live on this map?
7075.
7075?
Above the Burnhams, right? Yeah, down a little. Just up a little. Yeah, right there.
Okay.
And that warehouse, I'm going to look at it, and you're making it 50 feet high. Those headlights from that parking lot are going to be in my living room windows. And I want to know why didn't I get the courtesy of a notice, My sump pump is going to run continuously. Where's all the water going to go that drains from my property? There's a culvert right there that takes it from the golf course in my land onto your warehouse land. I am beyond words up here, really. I don't want all your basements flooded. I don't want headlights in your living room windows. That's my comment.
Okay.
I have more. I didn't get the notice. Is it because I'm in Salem? Is there something about Salem people?
No, the rule
So-
is 300 feet.
Pardon?
300 feet from the,
That's me.
from
yeah.
the proposed development.
So those are my concerns. And again, I support Mr. Burnham and the traffic, and we don't even know what kind of warehouse this is. Is there going to be little vans leaving? Is it 24/7? Is there going to be light manufacturing? Are the trucks going to dump their stuff off and then idle there while they sleep in their cabs? And I get to listen to that? So why am I not heard? So that is my comment.
All righty, thank you very much.
Laura, what is the business that's moving in there?
It's not a warehouse.
It's a spec building.
Oh, speculation.
What does that mean?
They're betting on a if-come tenant. They're speculating.
Okay, anybody else?
Doesn't have a tenant currently, is what it means.
Good evening. My name's Ron Panetta. I'm over on Homestead Street in Salem.
Get it close to your face, because
I don't know, I don't want to eat it.
people at home can't hear you.
Okay. We got a 50-foot wall, 6 feet from a beautiful country road. We should have a landscape area there to break this up. Why wasn't an additional area of land designated to break up this view added instead of subtracted? And this is to engineering and planning. What did the company say to you to convince you to make this part of our road that we're going to see instead of hiding it? As a joint venture and being a team, I would think you guys would make sure that they hide this building from us instead of making it more apparent. We want you on our side working for our neighborhood. Why'd you guys make this decision? Can I have an answer, or is that not allowed?
We didn't, it's the planning commission, correct?
No,
ZBA.
it was the zoning
Zoning
board,
board.
Chuck.
Yeah,
So
but
that you'd have
the
to go
site
back.
plan is the planning commission.
You'd have to go back to the minutes
ZBA.
of the zoning board.
I mean,
ZBA did the
just
site plan?
in common sense
CBA
of working with us,
CBA.
Has to be
a
zoned
50-foot wall is a tall wall. 6 feet is nothing. Come on, you guys, you got to work with us in this neighborhood. You don't want to look at that. We don't want to look at that. Let's work together to come up with a better solution. In Livonia, when Target and Walmart went in, they put in a proposal that you can only be open so many hours, so trucks aren't running all night. Why can't we work with something like that so we don't have this noise and disturbance throughout the night? I haven't seen any restrictions. I haven't seen anything in our favor. You got to be in our favor. What happens if the state of Michigan doesn't come up with $25 million for infrastructure? Who's going to pay for that? We can't have dump traffic, Kalo traffic, Jackie's trucking traffic, and 150 dock traffic on 5 Mile when it's 2 lanes. I mean, this is all speculation. What if we don't get the money from the state? How are we going to ever get on the freeway again down 5 Mile to Beck Road? It'll become impossible. We need a complete development study, I feel, before you guys go forward. I think we're moving way too fast. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, anybody else?
Is he a Salem resident or a Plymouth Township?
Salem resident.
Good evening. My name's Christine Corbeil. I would like to thank you, all neighbors that have showed up tonight.
Are you from Salem?
I am right, I'm on Sherry Lane, as well as some of the neighbors here have already stated, just south of Napier. I'm also concerned with many of the things that my neighbors have already voiced. I don't understand how I feel a bit of a betrayal from the city I chose to live in. After 25 years in the Marine Corps, moving back here, I chose to live where I do because of the surroundings that I'm in, the wildlife, the country living, the convenience to everything else with the small town feel of Plymouth. And I feel a bit of betrayal from my own city that you're selling this very small piece of land that's surrounded by wetlands to a out-of-state company that doesn't even have a buyer or a renter yet,
We're not-
but we're supposed
we're
to,
not selling
We're not
it.
selling
you're supposed to look at this until you
Wait,
have
wait,
one.
wait, you're incorrect there. We're not selling the land. It's,
City of
it
Detroit.
was City of Detroit, but it
Still
isn't, it's not Plymouth
Okay,
Township.
but it was approved by our city to
By our
put there
township,
in our
this township.
neighborhood,
No, you live in Salem.
but I'm also part of Plymouth.
No, you're, it's
you're
Plymouth
not.
zip code probably, but you're
Yeah.
not part of Plymouth.
Plymouth Schools and Plymouth Post
And we weren't
Office.
notified, and we didn't get an opinion at
You're
all.
well beyond the 300 feet, it looks like, so.
It doesn't matter, it's still directly
That's the state-
affected
that's
by the
state law,
influx
sorry.
of traffic that's there.
Okay.
We have families down that road, nothing, we were not considered at all in this decision. It's just an empty warehouse at this moment, so there's really no reason to put this there without consideration. So I just wanted to voice my
Okay.
opinion.
No,
and
thank you.
Support my neighbors.
No, thank you very much.
So thank you for hearing me.
Anybody else? Okay, in the back, come on down. And if the next person who wants to speak can get in line, that would be great. It'll save us some time.
I'm not to use that phrase. Come down. Makes me laugh.
Make sure I get close enough here so everybody can hear me. My name is Michelle Stanberry, Napier Road resident. My family has owned the property at 6805 Napier Road since 1932. So if anybody has any investment in this, it's myself. When my grandparents bought the property in 1932, Napier Road was nothing but a two-track, led by the farmers down at the end of Napier and North Territorial. As I've grown up in the Salem Township area, I've watched as DeHoco was running and then they closed down, and Scott Correctional was open and they closed down, and I've watched as all the homes are being built in these areas that used to be farmed by the prisoners at DeHoco. The zoning board made a decision to approve a ginormous warehouse of 770,000 square feet to be placed 6 feet from our country road that once was a two-track for farmers. With a 50-foot wall, 150 truck bays. And for my neighbors who are within 300 feet of that, there was no consideration for them. Plymouth Township is slowly, or I shouldn't say slowly, but has rapidly, I mean, I'm a former employee of Plymouth Township, worked in the police department for 12 and a half years. I watched as Plymouth Township went from a very rural community where Powell Road had farms on it, had the Bunya Farms and trucking out there on Powell Road, to now there's ginormous houses out there. I've watched as every bit of the farmland and the country setting in Plymouth Township has been swallowed up, and that property is slowly going away, and there'll be no place else to put these big places. So it might just come to your neighborhood next. If there's a large enough parcel, somebody might be knocking on your door to put up a great big warehouse with 150 truck bays, with trucks coming in and out at all hours of the day and night, with a great big 50-foot wall that sits 6 feet away from your mailbox. So I really honestly think that you need to take a look at everybody who's involved in this, and you need to reconsider about where you're placing things.
Thank you.
Hi, Juliana. I work in Plymouth.
Get closer.
I work in Plymouth Township. I'm initially from Colorado, and people ask me why I moved to Michigan. I say I moved for the trees. It's always been one of the most beautiful places to me. I think it's gorgeous. I came here in support and on behalf of the people that I think are being wrongfully represented here. And I must say, being an intern under a nationally recognized judge, Judge Delgado of Colorado, I am disappointed in the etiquette that has been displayed. I commend you, sir, for standing up for the people, because that is what the township is here to do. And to have the audacity to mention the legal parameters of this for that young lady and not have the companionship to take fault for the mistakes made on the behalf of your employees you investigated. But I ask you this, was it a third-party investigation, or did management just give everybody a slap on the wrist? Because lives are being impacted. So I urge you not to look at this from a monetary standpoint, but from a standpoint with humility for the people. That is what you are here for. That is literally your purpose, to give them a voice. So do so with dignity, integrity, and respect.
Anybody else? Hello.
I'm Melissa Burnham. My husband already spoke. I live at 6970 Napier, the one on the curve that's directly affected by this ginormous warehouse. Beep, 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 beep. Is that what you want to hear all day? Because that's what I'm going to hear, okay? And that's bull, okay? When you said a little while ago that traffic doesn't go down our road, has any of you been on our road? Have any of you rode on our road? No, like in the last couple weeks?
Yes.
No.
Have you been on our road? Have you seen the accidents in front of my house? No. Have you seen the truck signs that say no trucks on Napier Road? Well, then tell me where these 150 semis are gonna go. And let me explain something to you. When there's a building with a spec and we don't know who's moving in there, it could be a warehouse, or a Amazon. Those little vans are allowed on our road. So what, are we just gonna have a path of those? What's gonna happen when my kids get hit by those cars? Because they don't know that I have curbs, okay? I can tell you, look up your police reports, how many accidents from people that don't know our road. And here we are, you're endangering my children and my family because you guys haven't been on our road and you don't care that this thing is going in. And I'm going back to the same thing. You guys are not standing up for our rights at all because you made an error and you're pushing it off on an attorney. Let me tell you, you made an error because none of us were notified. We called in October because some guy was going through the woods right next to my property, tagging every frickin' tree. And we called and we asked, what is going on? And you guys said, we don't know, nobody knows. A month later, it was approved. That's a lie. You did know. You just chose not to tell us. So at this point, I demand that we have a hearing and we are heard.
All right, anybody else? Okay then, we're going to move on to the next agenda item. And this is the request for approval for Northville Downs of Plymouth Planned Unit Development, PUD option. Before we begin, I think Treasurer Dorshevitz has some prepared remarks. He is our representative to the Planning Commission, so under state law, a Planning Commission serves at the request of the Board of Trustees. They are the ones responsible for doing the homework and analysis with respect to matters impacting the Planning Commission. So under state law, I'm stealing your thunder here. So under state law, we have to designate one of our members to serve on the Planning Commission. That's Mr. Dorshevitz. Treasurer Dorshevitz.
Thank you. Is my microphone hot enough? Can you hear me out there? I think it's settled. How's that? Is that better? Okay, I'll put it near me. I have a couple of comments that I wanted to make relative to some of the communications we have, as well as what we're doing up here today. So first of all, I want to thank everybody for coming and for their input. Sometimes it's not pleasant up here. Sometimes people say things to you and about you that are, that are not very kind. But that's the process. And it's great that we live in a country where you're free to do that. So that's part of why we're up here, and we have to take it sometimes. We get a lot of, what's interesting about some of the communications that we get, from the public on some of these issues, including the Northville Downs issue, is that you tend to see some real common themes across the email communication, across the personal communication, on some of these bigger and more controversial issues. And rather than kind of do a, tit for tat and go bullet by bullet, what I wanted to really share with you was some of the themes that I've seen over the years and what the board's responsibility is in considering some of these programs. So, the job of the Board of Trustees is to follow the law. Our opinions are our personal opinions, but they're not necessarily the law. And our job is to understand the law, take the law, apply that to the facts, and make a decision based on the law. One of the things that comes up is gambling. I don't gamble, but I don't have a problem with gambling because I don't think I should tell other adults how to spend their money. But that doesn't matter. It's irrelevant what my view is on gambling because gambling is legal under state law. And when I make a decision based on an issue before the Board of Trustees, my personal opinion and my personal beliefs are not relevant. So there's three themes. And the first theme that I see is what I call, we don't need another grocery store. So what'll happen is that you'll get, I'll hear from a member of the public that will say something like, why did you approve that grocery store? We have enough grocery stores in the township. And what is important to understand about that is that we don't pick and choose between businesses that are placed in areas. We don't take parcels and say this parcel is going to be a grocery store, but rather we say a grocery store is a permitted use within this zone. And you could have 5 coffee shops in a row. And if a 6th person came in and said, I want to open a coffee shop and it were a permitted use within that zone, they would open that coffee shop even though it would be a poor business decision. Because it's not our job to make business decisions for people. We don't judge whether a business will be successful or not. That's not in our charter. Rather, I did some homework, and what's interesting is that probably nobody will guess this, but what is the most, what type of business has the greatest failure rate for new businesses? And it'll surprise you when you hear that. It's health clubs and gyms. Health clubs and gyms nationally fail 80% of the time, but if somebody wants to open a gym, I don't say, well, that's a poor business decision, therefore I'm not going to approve it. Bookstores is a good example of, they talk about, sometimes people will talk about something being a dying business, and bookstores 4 years ago, I would have said we're a dying business, but surprisingly, bookstores are rebounding. So you don't really know the future, and you can't really predict, you can't use what your view of a market is as a predictor as to whether that is an appropriate business for the township. Sometimes people ask, why don't you take a vote? Why don't you go out to the public and vote on whether you want to have this racetrack in the township? And you don't do that for 2 reasons. One is it's not legal. It's not legal to go out and take a vote to say we're gonna vote. We're gonna ask people whether they want to have this business in the township or not. You can't do that. Somebody had mentioned sometimes there's mention when the votes go out for millages, and the park project was it was a vote for a millage. It was not a vote to approve the existence of park. So the second part of that is the reason you don't take a vote is what you're going to hear later is you're going to hear the presentation of the 8 criteria that we use to determine whether we're going to approve this PUD. And that's the focus of tonight is the 8 criteria. Within those criteria, you see some subjective measures. Inarguably, there are some measures that are subjective, But still, remember what I said, the job of the board is to understand the law, apply the law to the facts, and apply the law to the 8 criteria to the facts in front of us. The second theme that I often hear, and I hope I'm not taking too much time here.
Your 3 minutes is up. Actually.
My 3 minutes is well, I get last week's too because I didn't speak then. Second thing I wanted to talk about is, second theme I see is, people talk about, keeping green space green. And I love parks too. I've lived here for 25 years. Everybody on this board is deeply, deeply invested in this community. But Friends of the Rouge has done a terrific job. I have great admiration for that organization. 40 years ago, the Rouge River was a mess. They've turned it around, and I have nothing but admiration for them, and I really appreciate their input on it. But people talk about, why don't you buy the land and turn it into a park? Well, when you get home tonight, pull out your tax bills from last year and add up the taxes that you paid. 16% of your taxes actually goes to the township. That's all, with 65 to 70% of that money being used for police and fire. So we don't have money to buy parkland. We just don't. We don't have $10 million certainly to buy a parcel of that size and turn it into a park. If we did, I would, but we don't. Sometimes people talk about why don't they donate the land, and that happens in about once or twice in a generation. Probably the most recent example of that was when 2 of the philanthropists in our community, Don Sunan and Mark Malcolm, donated the money to buy the Central Middle School building and turn it into park. But that wasn't a community going to them and saying, you're going to donate the money to this property. That was philanthropists within the community. And, developers aren't in the business of donating property. If they were, they wouldn't be in business anymore, quite simply. One of the things, I got about 3 more minutes and then I'm finished. One of the things a friend of mine was talking about was she's a member of a land conservancy, which is an outlet if you're really interested in preserving green space within the township. I would be interested in working with you to figure out how we would associate with land conservancies that may be able to purchase property and turn it into something else. The last theme I'm going to talk about is we don't care about the community up here. We care about this or that, but we don't care about the community. Let me tell you that we are deeply, deeply invested in this community. Chuck, how long have you lived in Plymouth, in the Plymouth community?
68 years.
What about you, Audrey?
22.
Jerry?
48.
Kurt?
17.
25 for me. John?
38.
38. Jen?
6.
6. She's a newcomer.
Yeah, but she's the youngest one of us.
Yeah. So, we live here. We raised our families here. We went to school here. We were here when it was less developed. When I moved in, my subdivision was brand new, but I didn't kid myself and believe the real estate agent who said, there's never going to be anything else behind you. You'll have deer for the rest of your life. I wasn't that naive. I knew eventually the property behind me would be developed, and it is. I live as close, Audrey's probably the only one that lives closer to this potential development than me. Pardon me?
Yes, you're absolutely right. That's why I can talk about Ridge Road.
You can talk about Ridge. So we live here too. It's our community. We serve because we are deeply, deeply emotionally tied to this community. And sometimes it can be really offensive when people say to me, you don't care about the community. And that's it. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
So item F1, again, is the request for approval of the Northville Downs of Plymouth. What we're going to do tonight is I'm going to hand it over to Laura Haw. She is our planner. She works for McKenna Associates, which is a premier Michigan-based planning and urban consulting firm. So Laura is going to walk us through the PUD process and then also update us on what the decisions were at the Planning Commission level a couple weeks ago. I will say it was a unanimous vote, and Laura will walk us through again the process and then the individual findings of the Planning Commission. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Laura. All your mics are on and everything?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. Thank you, Supervisor Heisey. Evening, trustees. Trustee Dershowitz, could you pull up that presentation, please? So the second slide is just to orient everyone. This project site is located at the southwest corner of 5 Mile and Ridge Road. The property itself is a total of 125 acres. The majority of the site, however, is wetlands or woodlands. That's 41%, and that will remain. I know that many of you in this room and the board are familiar with this site, as it was previously approved as an industrial park, the Ridge 5 in Corporate Park. And you can see from the aerial that after approval, the site was partially cleared. There was some infrastructure installed. You can see those detention basins, the roadway paving. However, that project was withdrawn. The next slide shows the 2 zoning districts that occupy this site, and there has been no rezoning as part of, the previous part.
I think you are.
Am I on the right one, Laura?
No, the previous slide, please.
Sorry, thought you said go to the next slide.
Yep, that one.
Are we still there? Okay.
Yes, slide 3, thank you.
Sorry about that.
This aerial shows the zoning districts for the property. The site is largely zoned the industrial district. That has not changed. And in 2016, that blue area, that represents the portion of the site that contains Johnson Creek, but was rezoned as public lands from industrial. And that land in the blue there, that's zoned public lands, will be improved with public recreation and access for the community as part of this project. The next slide details the project scope, what's proposed. So this would be a half-mile racetrack facility for harness racing. There's a grandstand area of approximately just under 5,000 square feet. There's also the racing building itself at 23,000 square feet approximately. There is a large kind of open-air barn that's located to the northeast of the track at 35,000 square feet. And then there's a 3,000 square foot maintenance building directly to the south of that barn, several parking and loading areas, and then the public walking path along Johnson Creek. And the next slide shows a couple improvements that the applicant has made to the site since it was last reviewed by the Planning Commission. So that in the top right corner of the slide, that is a close-up of a boardwalk jutting out to Johnson Creek. There are 3 of these locations that are now proposed along the creek for public access that would come off of that pathway, the walking trail. Green infrastructure has also been added. So for instance, the drop-off area for the main grandstand building, the roof there will now run into a rain garden in front of the building with informational, educational signage. And the applicant has mapped out several recreation amenities on the site. So you can see there's the 3 soccer fields that are within the middle of the track. There's also several pickleball courts that are located directly east of the building. The next slide discusses the PUD process. So there are multiple steps in a PUD, and the first step is really to determine eligibility. So this is not a site plan, but does the proposed project meet the eligibility criteria of the ordinance? And you can see in yellow the steps that we've already gone through so far. The first was the Planning Commission having a public hearing on February 15th. And tonight, the board, of course, is considering approval or denial of that PUD option after that recommendation from the Planning Commission. If the project is to move forward, then the next couple steps would be the actual site plan, and that's when you're getting into the nitty-gritty of the site, the building elevations, the landscaping, the specifics of the site layout. The next slide contains the eligibility criteria that I mentioned that this project must be reflective of in order to be approved. So the criteria includes factors such as, does it meet the intent of a PUD, which is a flexible development tool? Does it provide a community benefit that would likely be unachievable if this were just a traditional conventional zoning project? Does it further any of the goals of the master plan? Are there natural features that could be enhanced or preserved with this project that would otherwise not be achieved under a traditional project? The analysis of that 8 criteria was included in your board packet. I'd like to make it clear that on February 15th, the Planning Commission held a public hearing on this PUD option, and after evaluation of these 8 criteria and finding that these were met, they did recommend approval unanimously to the board for this proposed PUD. Based on compliance with section 21.3 of the zoning ordinance, with several conditions. And thus, on packet page 36, the recommendation to approve the PUD is noted. And the following page, packet page 37, contains the draft resolution for your consideration, should you wish to approve the Planning Commission's recommendation and move the project to the next square. Again, this is not site plan approval. Things on the site can change. There's still conditions to be addressed through that process. But the Planning Commission has found that these criteria are satisfied and recommend moving the project forward. Thank you.
Okay, so Laura, our purpose tonight is to authorize this as a PUD and then refer it back to you and the Planning Commission?
Correct, yeah. So the natural steps it would take is that it would go back to the Planning Commission for at least 1, if not 2 more meetings to finalize those site plan details. Then it would come back to the Board of Trustees, as you are the final approving authority. That's when you would also be approving the PUD contract.
Is a PUD, a planned unit development, at the end of the day, is a contract?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, any questions from the board?
Yes. Can I
Yes,
go?
go ahead.
Do we want to go through the?
Is there
planners
anything else?
report, or-
I mean, do we want the applicants to talk at this point? I mean, it's not a rehearing, so I'm not, I mean, if they're here in case there's specific questions, but again, it's not a rehearing. That's not what we're here for tonight. I mean, the Planning Commission did that for us. So, Mr. Carmy?
What is meant by the current owner, or the previous owner, Hillside, having withdrawn? What did they withdraw?
They are no longer building their project. They have selling their property. This project is no longer moving forward. They're not seeking certificates of occupancy or further construction permits from the building department.
It's still a PUD that they had approved, correct?
The Ridge 5 Corporate Park was a traditional project in that it was just a permitted use. So there was no special land use, there was no PUD previously on the site.
So what did they withdraw? They didn't, it's still there, they just don't have any buyers.
They sold it.
They sold it, they don't have any buyers for the lots, or they didn't. Who withdrew it? The current owner, Carlo?
No, the previous approved project, the Ridge 5 development, this was approved by the township.
Hillside.
Yes, they started construction and then they ceased. The property has since been purchased by the applicant before you tonight for this project with a PUD. There was not a PUD proposed on this site before.
They completed the site construction, they just never got into building construction. They didn't build on the individual site. They went through the site.
Right, but the present approval with all the infrastructure in place runs with the land. They sold it, and that runs with the land. So if they decided not to build their facility as a horse track, they could continue to have a business park. The answer to that is yes.
Theoretically.
No, I mean, that's not a yes or no answer. That's a business decision that they would have to
No,
make.
no, I'm talking about from a zoning standpoint.
It would, the PUD would fall away and it would be, it would revert back to.
It would
current
revert
zoning.
to the hillside type situation.
You would essentially, yes, you would, someone else that wanted to propose new development on the site would have to start at the beginning and go through that process. Just because there's the utilities there doesn't exclude someone from having to go through the permitting process.
Well, wait a minute, they would not have to get another site plan. They would have to permit each building that they were going to build. The site plan is already approved, the drawing is stamped, it's ready. So withdrawn, I understand kind of what you're saying, but the place isn't blown up. It could revert to a business park. Everything is approved, including Act 198 tax abatement opportunities.
There were actually a couple of applications for that, and they fell through.
Right, they received approval by us.
Right.
And they decided not to proceed.
I think the point is that that site plan's only good for 1 year. So if they didn't start building on
They'd have
it
to do another
within a
site
year.
Right, but
they'd have
if
to
you
go-
sold to somebody or want to do a speculative building, you could, it's
Theoretically-
shovel-ready as a business park.
Theoretically, you could come back in for another site plan looking exactly the same and get all of your approvals relatively quickly because they have sewer, they have water, they have a road, they have all that.
But I think, Chuck, I think what you're asking is the contract, the terms of the contract run with the land. That's what he's saying. And I actually, do they run with the land or is it
They don't-
contract
Yes.
specific?
They don't have a current contract.
They don't
It's
have
not
a current
PUD.
contract.
No.
It's-
They don't have a PUD.
They don't need a PUD for the current hillside development. It runs with the land. It's, has an
Owned that
approved
way.
drawing. Wayne County has approved the drainage.
Yes.
It is shovel-ready.
Correct.
If I had the money, I could come in there and say, I want to build an office building or a light manufacturing and bring in drawings and the building department would approve them and we'd move forward with literally building.
Theoretically.
Yeah, so, well, what I was trying to get away from was the impression that that all went away. It's not. If this doesn't get approved tonight, somebody else could take over and build a building.
Well,
I think what she said was the developer went away, the developer went.
Right.
The project failed.
But these current owners could do something else with
The
it.
new owners.
Yeah, all right, I understand.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
I just wanted to ask, just maybe other people are thinking the same. How long ago did this developer abandon the project?
Never abandoned it.
Well,
Hard to say. I think
okay.
abandoned is probably too
Maybe
harsh a
it's
word.
too harsh of a word,
I
but
think they
okay,
made.
stepped away
They
from.
made a business decision.
Failed to sell lots.
Failed to sell lots? I mean, I don't know, use your adjective, I don't care, but
I
how
mean,
long ago?
to answer your question, I don't know what the exact date. I mean, the hillside development is, has been unsuccessful in their efforts to sell various parcels. And as a business, hillside development made a business decision to get out of the market and sell.
Sure, well, and they have a right to do that, but my question is a little more in depth than that. If, my point is we've heard a lot of people say that things are moving too fast. I wondered how long it was ago that this developer decided that he couldn't sell his lots and he was
Couple
going to.
months ago.
I don't know. I mean, I would say it was
yours? Was it?
No.
Been a
probably
while.
at least.
It's been a while?
Yeah,
A year.
my understanding, and
Go ahead.
I don't,
No, go ahead.
I don't want to speak, I don't want to say things that I don't know if they're true, but my understanding is that the owner of the company had other priorities and did not put focus on developing it the
Right.
way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the market has changed radically since COVID.
Right.
And this was envisioned as office and light industrial, and the market does not want that right now. So that's how they envisioned this site, and I think as things changed, I think they, again, they lost interest, and I agree with Bob, I think they kind of lost their focus on this site, and they decided to walk away, sell it. Not abandon it,
Sell it. They made money.
was a defense attorney, I mean.
Yeah, well, no,
Abandoned.
Abandoned, that always,
Abandoned.
that signals, that sends off different red flags with us.
Site itself was completed like in 2020, so it's been around for a long time. It's not like a couple
Thank you,
months.
Jeremy, that's just what I wanted to know, because it's important. Residents want to know for just, pushing someone out. I mean, if someone goes out, we push someone in right away. I mean, I suppose we have the right to do that if we'd like, but there's some careful consideration going on here at a multitude of levels. And if it's from 2020 instead of 2023 or late 2022, I think it matters, because there's a lot in your department that goes into this.
It does. That land has been cleared for quite some time, and there's been infrastructure there for quite some time. I mean, I drive that corridor all the time, several times a week, and it's been cleared for a long time.
But this has happened many times over the years. We've had recessions.
It does.
And you've had whole subdivisions in Canton Township or Plymouth Township with roads, sewers, and water, and they've sat, Ridgewood Hills built about 10 houses, and they sat almost empty for 5 years.
That's right.
No other house was built for 5 years.
Wow.
Yep. In the early 80s.
And now look at.
Yeah, well, now they filled it up, finally. But Canton Township, you could go and you'd find 250 prepared lots that were completely vacant, and it was like that for, in some cases, more than 5 years. But the developer sold them, or the bank took it back, and then they eventually turned into houses. So that's kind of my point, is just because you're having some selling problems now, doesn't mean it's the end of the world. Things change.
They do.
And developers are used to that are seasoned, of the unlucky ones get stuck with a bunch of developed lots and go bankrupt or turn it back to the bank. It's happened many times.
Okay, any other questions from board members? All right.
So we're gonna have questions later if we have more that come up.
For sure. I mean, the board, yeah, we can certainly have questions later if we want. So at this point, I know some of you may have arrived a little after 7 o'clock, so just want to remind everybody that we will take public comment at this time. I'm going to do my best to limit, let's all work together to try to keep ourselves under 3 minutes. And again, if you would like to have a designated person, a spokesperson, that would also be very helpful in order to facilitate time and a timely meeting. But again, if anybody wants to comment on this project, feel free to come forward. I just ask that you state your name and your community of residence.
Howard Hamrick again, Ridgewood Hills resident, 72 at Plymouth Township, longtime township resident since the time I was born. I have a little knowledge in this area. I work with the Taos Transportation Land Use Study for Southeast Michigan for 2 years, so I'm pretty familiar with zoning and a few other things. So I have a couple of concerns about the proceedings of the commission I attended last time. The PE group made several recommendations, and one of those was to have a traffic impact study performed and provided by the time the project goes to the Planning Commission. I was at the meeting, I looked through all of the documents, I did not see a traffic study submitted. So if you look at number 6 and 7 up here, Planning Commission is required as part of its eligibility criteria to look at the traffic impact. Now, there was a fair amount of time spent on the traffic in the actual site, which means little or nothing other than people can drive around the site or go around the racetrack when it's built. The second question was posed to them also, and that was about the hours of operation and the schedules. And one of the interesting ideas is that's 11 to 11. It's 7 days a week for gaming for the parlor, as far as that was reported at that meeting. Also, there were 52 days of outside horse racing, the harness racing. Interestingly enough, today's meeting, we found out this issue with the Napier Road. Anyone who's walked that property or driven around it knows there's absolutely no sidewalks anywhere near that. Yet it was very clearly pointed out that this particular proposal was not going to affect pedestrian traffic. I doubt that any pedestrian would want to walk down 5 Mile Road or Beck Road. The elephant in the room has 4 letters. I'm going to cut to the chase. Those 4 letters are BECK. Anyone coming to this facility, and also this other one that the folks from Salem are a little upset about, is going to come a couple of ways. And if you think they're going to drive down 5 Mile Road, the other bumpy road with all the twists and turns, or come up gravel roads like Ridge Road or gravel roads like Napier, you have been living in the wrong community for a long time, or you need a horse and buggy. They're going to come up freeways. And where are they going to get off? Godfredson Road, maybe, to Territorial, then come up Ridge because it's paved and hit 5 Mile Road. They're going to go off, come from the east down 14 or 96 to Beck Road. There's only one road that runs north and south from Michigan Avenue to the freeway in I-96 in Novi, and that road is called Beck Road. And it's mostly a 2-lane road until you get to Territorial, where it happens to be 2 lanes from Territorial north to 6 Mile Road. There's an enormous amount of gridlock there right now, and hopefully you're going to get some money from the state to widen it. But working with the county, and I used to work with the county also, is sort of an interesting problem. There's no work when you work with the county. So I think you made some poor decisions, both on items 6 and 7, and it doesn't meet the criteria, I'm sorry to say.
Okay, thank you.
Hi. Can you hear me? Oh, yeah, thanks. My name is Mary Pine. We've lived here for 42 years, raised 5 children, been active in the soccer community, travel soccer. I suggest that, again, the cart has been put before the horse. 13 days ago, the Planning Commission approved a PUD based only on site requirements for Northville Downs to build a racetrack compound. While it has been argued that the supervisor has gone through the proper channels, as contrived as they are, again, the appearance is that the supervisor has put the needs of businessmen over those of a family-oriented Plymouth Township residents and voters. A precedent has been set by the decision-making process at Plymouth Township obtaining broad community acceptance or non-acceptance on park. It appears to be a red flag that not being able to vote has never been mentioned one way or the other until now. The recent February 15th The Rock PR piece reveals the rush to push this as apparently the Carlo family has a goal of spring 2024 open date. Another red flag is that the Carlo family purchased this land according to the Rock publication in October, and there was little communication during the winter months. With my apologies to the Carlo family, a township consultant at the Planning Commission meeting stated that something worse could be put in. Why is something implied as bad being proposed in our desirable family community? There are a multitude of issues not being considered in this decision currently. Broadly, no analysis has been presented as to the benefits, both financial and non-financial, versus the said cost of those financial and non-financial benefits of bringing harness racing, a dying industry, into our community. As with Pompano Beach, Florida, is the ultimate goal to bring a gaming facility to rescue the racetrack. A glaring lack of insight is the suggestion that the facility can accommodate youth soccer practices with considering the racing hours. With the question of liquor license being omitted from the discussion, what parent wants to drop off and pick up their son and daughter with the potential for drunk driving? Having been badly injured in Plymouth Township by being rear-ended at a stoplight at Beck Road, standing before you here with hardware in my neck not to be a quadriplegic and still recovering 2013 brain injury, I can answer that. No parent wants to do that. A survey of the Plymouth Township residents was needed here to delineate just site requirements without community requirements is a cop-out and an abdication of the spirit of the duties that this board should have. This sounds like a pattern with the warehouse facility on Napier Road. A planning commission member on 215 told the audience to pick their poison. I guess that tonight's outcome will illuminate what and where the poisons the Plymouth Township voters picked previously in the last election.
Hi, guys, two for the price of one. My name's Bill Pine. I'm with her. I realize this is not a decision-making process. You're just making sure that the stuff the planning commission did is okay. But you guys are running out of time to do your analysis. One of my old chief engineers once told me that in God we trust, all others bring data. The Carlos have done that, and I respect what these guys have done. They're good guys. Now, I don't know if I necessarily agree with where it's headed, but I respect the fact that they're doing it right. We haven't. We put together an email and sent it to the 7 members on the board. 2 of them responded, thanked us for the input, and said, hey, we do need some more time to think about this. One of them dismissed 2 of the items out of hand, and the rest, oh, I'm sorry, not out of hand, with cause, but he didn't explain the cause, and the rest completely out of hand.
I did tonight.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did.
And then, no, you didn't. What's the cost-benefit analysis, Bob? What's the timing? You haven't done SICM, my friend, and I'll tell you how to do it. I've got like 5 more questions, thank you very much. And one of them was, I think, displeased that we raised it at all. But anyways, the point that I want to make is that in the email we put together, which I've given to these guys, because I think they'll do something with it if this gets approved. I don't have confidence in you guys. It had 18 questions in it and suggestions. The only opinion I had was that you needed more time to do your analysis. And then what happens? 2 of the items were dismissed, but with no explanation, and 16 of the items weren't addressed at all. When I was a kid, there was a game that we played, and it was, I can name that tune in 5 notes. No, 4 notes. You know what you guys are doing? You're naming that tune in no notes. You've got some time, but you're running out. You need to do some analysis. You got some of your own guys saying, hey, we need to do more analysis. Kurt, I would try to get more community input on what's good or what's bad. At the end of the day, you got to do what the community wants to do. But right now, quite frankly, I don't think you know. We've done a highly unscientific survey, walking in a neighborhood where we talk to people, and everybody we've talked to in our neighborhood either doesn't want to get involved or doesn't like it. So, like I said, highly unscientific, but get more information, do the work. Have your planners get together, talk about a timeline. These guys have a terminal point that they want to consider if this gets approved. But for God's sake, do it right. And if you want to, I'll be here. The reason I did the 9-truck RICO thing, Bob, for you, the reason I did it for you was that, quite frankly, right now, you don't know. And I have done this for a living for 50 years, and I do know that you don't know.
Okay, please address the board. Thank you.
Thank you for the time.
All right, thanks.
I usually don't get revved up like that. If anybody wants to see the questions that weren't answered, I got some extra copies in my book that I can share after the
All right,
meeting.
next.
Hi, my name is Kathleen Miglietti. I'm a Plymouth Township resident for a little over 3 years now. To follow up kind of on what you said, I wanted to say the Carlo brothers, I think, have been, at least from what I can tell, very straightforward in what they want to do with the site, and I thank them for that. I don't agree with it, but I thank you for it. The messaging I've gotten from, actually, I don't think any of you guys responded to me, but the messaging I've heard
What's
from
your name? I'm sorry, what's your
Kathleen
name?
Miglietti.
Oh, I responded to you.
You did? I
Oh,
haven't
yes.
seen it yet. Okay. Yes, I did, yep. Trustee Kermy did respond. So I haven't heard from most of you though, so I just wanted to say that I did send a lengthy email. I was able to address a lot of my concerns and questions more than I'd be able to do in 3 minutes here. So I hope you took the opportunity to read over them and think about them. And I wanted to spend this time here just talking about, very briefly, or summarizing that I think there's financial, ethical, and environmental aspects that need to be taken into consideration. Namely, I believe that the financial benefit to the community has been overstated, the environmental impact has been understated, and from an ethical standpoint, I don't think we can justify animal entertainment anymore. I don't wish to spend any more time reiterating any of that stuff, so I just wanted to tell you guys why My family chose to move to Plymouth Township, what makes it a desirable place for me, other families that call it home, and then, to raise our kids here. What's the first thing you guys think of when I say Canton?
Traffic.
It's Ford Road, right? So it's congestion, overdeveloped, commercialized, all right? That's not what Plymouth Township has ever been. It's why we moved here from Canton. We spent a year in Canton, and I'm really happy that I ended up in Plymouth Township. I do love to travel, though. I've traveled all over the country and a few other countries, and I often see people wearing Michigan gear, and I always ask them where they're from, and then inevitably they ask me where I'm from, and I say Plymouth Township, and usually that's met with a really positive response, like, oh, you guys have an awesome park with a great sledding hill, you guys have a great little downtown. I know that's Plymouth City, but we get lumped together. And I'm just afraid that we're moving in a direction where 5 to 10 years from now, I'm going to tell people I'm from Plymouth Township, and the response I'm going to get is, oh, you're the place with the big warehouses and the racetrack, right? And that's not where we want to raise our kids. That's not what Plymouth Township is about. That's not what's drawn families to this community in its entire history. And I know there's a lot of Salem Township people here, and I know that 6 of the 7 people up here aren't going to apologize to you, but I do apologize that we've put people in office who are going to destroy your properties with something like that. And I'll fight for you to get better people in office so that they can't do that anymore.
Hi, again, my name is Christine Corbeil. I'm on Sherry Lane right off of Napier.
A little bit closer to the,
Yes.
And louder. No indoor voices.
Yeah, so, all right, well, I'm right off of Sherry Lane. This is going to be right in my backyard. I actually see the cars now that drive through there. People always go back there, set off fireworks and everything. I can see their headlights and what they're doing from my back porch. So this directly affects me. And to my point earlier, the warehouses, that traffic there, they're not going to go down to Ridge or Wayfair back. They're going to actually turn around and go down Napier because there is a railroad track there that we do get trains on. So that's going to back that up. But this, I had a question for you actually, because you were planning it and speaking about this. So your walkway that you're building there, are people aware that it is going to line mine and the Petrosky family's backyards and as well as the gun range that runs there right across that gas line? And how do you prevent people from venturing away?
Are we still talking about the horse track project?
Yes.
Okay, because that's.
The walkway that she's speaking of.
Can we bring up the
I'm
map?
confused because it's, the horse track is way east of where you live, so help me out.
Substantially.
Yeah, the park, the industrial park that's there right now, there are roads and they were planning on putting buildings there. That's been done for at least 6 months. So I do see the headlights and everything for people there. So you have a walkway planned, a green space walk area that will line mine and the Petrosky family's backyard and the gun range. No. Do you have anything in place to prevent people from venturing into our property?
No, there's no pathway by your property. If you could bring up the.
When they do she showed a walkway.
She's talking about the linear
the
park.
walkway.
Where does it end is the question.
Walkway.
Doesn't cross
the walkway begins here, it comes up the east side of the Johnson.
Along the Johnson Creek where my dog happens to go all the time and smells like deer poo when she gets home.
You're over here.
Yeah, so how are you gonna keep people from crossing over into mine and the neighbors' yards and the gun range?
They'd have to walk across the creek.
Okay, is there a walkway that's going across there, or is it just on the other side? So
Walk
they
through
can't.
acres and acres of wetlands here, which they could do right now.
Yeah, there's no bridge proposed as part of this project, and the pathway is several hundred feet to the north of the southern property line.
Okay,
There's wetlands in between, or the creek.
okay.
There's no pathway that connects to any other.
All right,
area
no,
to
I noticed that it's going along our property lines as well as the gun ranges line, so I just didn't know how you plan to keep people on that side, so they're not venturing into everyone else's properties.
I'm curious, are you aware of what Salem Township is gonna build in your front yard?
Yeah, that's a different issue.
You should educate yourself.
Yeah,
Excuse me? Okay, so first of all, you don't think
Are
I
you
matter because
aware?
I'm from Salem and I need to educate myself.
Okay.
I will definitely take both of your names and be writing the city.
Okay.
I'm
My card
highly
is right.
offended.
So
I thought this
Offended
was
by
a,
what?
we're trying to explain
this is my
to you
time that you're cutting into, so do I
Oh,
get
no,
to, do I get to
plenty of
add
time.
time on that you're interrupting me?
What I'm asking you, are you aware of the development Salem Township is
And
gonna
I'll
build
handle
on
that when
Napier?
Salem
They're gonna
is,
build a wastewater treatment plant in your front yard. Are you aware of
no,
that?
they're not. And that's not here tonight. I'm addressing Plymouth tonight, and when that happens, I will go there and address them.
You have as much time as you want.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Hello.
Hello, my name is Joyce Janicki. I'm from St. Clair Shores, but I care enough about the issue that I wanted to drive all the way over here. I'd like to state that in all fairness, the township requires a 9th eligibility criteria, which considers animal welfare. What's the impact of the business on the animals involved, namely the horses? During the 4 years between 2017 and 2021, 29 of 38 horse racing states reported more than 4,000 horse race fatalities and more than 4,000 sanctions against trainers and owners. The horse deaths are broken down into thoroughbred and standardbred. Because of scandals and these mounting death rates of racehorses, the federal government stepped in and passed the Horse Racing Integrity and Safety Act in 2020. This act was meant to standardize racehorse care, medication use, and racetrack safety measures across the nation. Actions which were applauded by many in the horse racing business, including Alan Foreman, who is chairman and CEO of the Thoroughbred Horsemen's Associations. Although the act only covers thoroughbreds, standardbreds or harness horses can opt in. However, the U.S. Trotting Association, which are those involved with harness racing, has opposed this legislation, with one of their main objectives being the outlawing of injecting a horse with Lasix before a race to treat what is called exercise-induced pulmonary hemorrhage, which is bleeding into the lungs caused by stress during training and racing. However, after the death of a 2-year-old harness racing horse in July of 22, Freddie Hudson, CEO of the U.S. Harness Racing Alumni Association, stated, "We as an industry do not need to be racing 2-year-olds on Lasix." Currently, this groundbreaking legislation has been put on hold due to differing court opinions. Online, you can easily find numerous no-contest harness races, which are races called because of accidents, injuries, etc., during 2022 and 23. Generally, the terrified horses are given very little mention. After reading so much about this whole issue, way more than I could ever mention here about all the dismal and downright depressing aspects of horse racing, it's difficult to understand why this body would want to bring such an enterprise into your community. I can't imagine any of you entering your household pets into a race or other competition where your beloved pet could be seriously injured or even die.
We're going to have to ask you to wrap it up, please,
Okay.
to give other
One
people a chance
sentence.
to speak.
With all due respect, why then allow this to horses?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You gonna take a break anytime?
No, I'm not.
Good afternoon.
I could
My
take
name is
one.
Greg Burrick,
Well,
and I
go to
live
the
in
bathroom.
Fox Point, just on Ridge Road, just south of North Territorial. I'm not here to oppose or to advance the racetrack. I just have some things that come to mind when I listened to the discussions today. There are a lot of changes coming to the northwest side of Plymouth Township.
all at the same time. In the last month, I've been made aware of the racetrack. Tonight, I just was made aware of a new warehouse. And about 2 weeks ago, I was made aware of a charter school that's going across the street from our subdivision. My concern is that I know that you're outside the discussion for the charter school. I know that's not up to us or up to you. But that is part of the equation. When you look at the racetrack, when you look at the warehouse, these things all run together. They shouldn't be considered individually. I mean, together, they are impacting the character of Plymouth Township, the family status, the family style of Plymouth Township, and together they are significantly impacting the traffic that we're going to have. In the discussions 2 weeks ago, there was a lot of talk about possibly $25 million coming to advance 5 Mile. I didn't hear any discussion about Ridge Road, and Ridge Road is really the pinch point. That's where the people would be going into the racetrack.
Yep.
But there was yet no discussion about Ridge Road. I also believe that 5 Mile is not going to benefit the racetrack. People leaving the racetrack, if they're going west, they're going to be coming down Ridge Road, getting on North Territorial and heading to Godfredson. If they're going east, chances are they're still going to come down to North Territorial because there's less lights and it's less traffic for them. So they're going to be coming down to North Territorial, heading east and going up Beck Road. So I just want to make sure that as you look at these individual projects, you consider them and the impact of them as a whole on what's going to happen to the northwest portion of Plymouth Township. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Marilyn Botera. I'm a Salem Township resident, but I live just 2 miles down the road from the proposed racetrack. I serve on the USTA, United States Trotting Association Board of Directors, and I'm also a trustee of the American Horse Council that looks after the interests of all equine breeds and disciplines across the country. I think I can safely say that, and I apologize, I'm repeating comments from the Planning Commission meeting, so if you've heard it before, I apologize. I think I can speak for every horse owner in Michigan, every racehorse owner, that we're supportive of the track. Also, people that still enjoy attending the races and people that respect the history of horse racing in Michigan. This will be the last track left, and we need to preserve that. Most importantly, for you as township leaders, it's an exciting new development for Plymouth Township. My husband and I have lived on 5 Mile Road, 2 miles down the road, for 35 years, and all those parcels of land around there have been empty for all that time. There will be some kind of development eventually, and the racetrack is a perfect development for that place and convenient access to the freeway. I thought on the agenda was the discussion about the community agreement for the benefits for the township. Is that going to?
That would come up next on the agenda.
So it's a great win for Plymouth Township too. The revenue from the track, the tax revenue, rather than having that land sit there empty. And the soccer fields, possible other concerts, other types of community events. As far as the ethical issues about horse racing, our racehorses are athletes. They love what they do. We don't force them to race. Most racehorses are very well cared for, just like a business owner. You protect their interest, your investment. We protect your horses. They're our livelihood. We take great care of them. The lady that spoke about HISA and the elimination of the race day medication Lasix, it's a therapeutic medication that prevents equine EIPH is what it's called, hemorrhage. It occurs in human athletes too. And so we use it as a therapeutic medication in horses to prevent that. Also, when they cite the breakdown statistics, they're more in thoroughbreds than standardbreds. We're gonna be racing standardbreds.
Okay.
Can I just say one more thing?
Just hurry up.
There's been a lot of back and forth on Nextdoor Digest comparing this
Yeah,
development.
we're talking about the PU dates in front of us. We're not going to comment on things that are on social media.
Okay,
Okay.
it just relates. But, Pinnacle, people are comparing this development to Pinnacle, and the reason that Pinnacle cost Wayne County money was an agreement they made with the developers at that time. And the Carlos have been in the racetrack business for 80 years. This development is not gonna fail.
Okay. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Caitlin Schaefer.
Get
and-
closer to the mic.
Is that better?
You can pick it up. It's
pick it
loose.
up?
Yeah.
Okay, that's even better. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Caitlin Schaefer, and I'm a resident of downtown Plymouth. I'm here to speak on behalf of my husband and myself, he's a resident physician at U of M and was unable to be here tonight. So he just wanted me to reiterate that he seconds my sentiments. My husband and I moved to the area this past summer, and frankly, we wanted to land in Plymouth Township. We spent a tremendous amount of time looking for homes and property in the area, hoping to be close to our family and our goddaughter. But as you can imagine, the housing market was crazy, and we just had to jump on whatever became available. And so we landed downtown Plymouth, but I still sort of consider myself part of the township. One of the biggest draws to the area was the family-friendly community atmosphere. Unfortunately, we believe that this project is in stark contrast to those values. I am not only concerned that it promotes animal cruelty, but it will impact the environment, increase traffic congestion, and frankly be a financial catastrophe. I also worry about how it's going to impact property values in the years to come. Building this horse racing track 2 years after the legitimization of online sports betting in Michigan makes absolutely no sense from a financial perspective. While there could be some financial benefit to the township initially, I'm concerned that there's not going to be a great likelihood in the years to come, 5 to 10 years down the road. Last, and what I really want to emphasize tonight is I have reviewed the eligibility standards. I'm an attorney myself, and I do not believe that this project actually meets the criteria. As was mentioned earlier today, several of these criteria are subjective, and I believe that in regards specifically to the community benefit, preservation of natural assets, and avoiding negative impacts to surrounding properties, it does not meet those standards. So for that reason, I respectfully ask that you consider opposing this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rena Bond. I live in Farmington Hills. Oh, is this better? Can you hear me? Okay. I live in Farmington Hills. I'm here tonight because my family and I live about, 15, 20 minutes away. Spent a lot of time in Plymouth patronizing the businesses. And we really love the area. We've considered moving to the area, and I was very concerned and disappointed to hear about this proposal. I think it's unethical from a lot of different aspects, from how it's come about, being fast-tracked, property being purchased without approval to build for this specific purpose, which does promote animal cruelty. There are environmental concerns. My understanding is it could cause endangered species extinction. And I just think it's not a good look for Plymouth. And I want to highlight that this industry is extremely cruel. There's a reason that this is one of the last racetracks that it would be, because people are becoming aware of that, and it's outdated, and it's harmful, and it should not be promoted. So this makes me reconsider my opinion of Plymouth and our consideration of considering it for an even stronger community to move to. So I urge you to oppose.
Okay, thank you.
This isn't made for taller people, I'm afraid. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, you
My
can
name is
pick it up.
Stacy.
You can hold on to it the whole time.
Shaking, then people know I'm shaking and nervous. My name is Stacy Romine. I live in the Plymouth Township community. I live in the Twin Arbors sub, which is adjacent to I-275. I've been here for about 38 years. I did send an email to the trustees today with what you shared before we all started talking. A lot of the decision-making apparently isn't about the business in particular and the sustainability of the business and our opinion of that. I don't support it. I don't unsupport it. It's just, to me, seems like a challenging business venture at this point in time. So I'll skip my details that I shared in the email about that and just really focus on my remaining concern. As I mentioned, I live next to I-275. We hear the traffic all the time. During COVID, when nobody could, when outdoor activities were required, we'd be walking around our sub, and on occasion during COVID, we could hear music playing from somewhere. We have a Facebook thread for our subdivision, and lo and behold, this was from a restaurant that was a half a mile away, across a lake, across Hines Drive, across some treed areas. So my concern really goes to, I guess, number 6 and 7, in taking into consideration traffic. I want to talk about, I think, a little bit about noise traffic, and I'm concerned a little bit about the residents adjacent to the property. I understand I have seen there's a community adjacent to it. I understand the racetrack hours are on Friday and Saturdays. That's in there during the time of the year where people have their windows open. They want to enjoy outdoor time. They want to sit on their front porch. They want to have people over. And with the racetrack hours of 11 to 11, my concern really is that it's going to be negative for the people who want to spend time outside on their own property. So I'll leave my comments to that, and I appreciate your time and your consideration.
All right.
I don't know if there's an ordinance kind of situation or a decibel or a continuation of noise, as one person was talking about, the beep, 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 beep down the roads. If it's a sustained noise from 11 to 11, that gets to be quite challenging. Again, we have the construction on 275, and we hear the thumping on that, all day and into the evening. So appreciate your time. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there anybody else who wishes to speak at this time? I know this woman has already had an opportunity, so is there anybody else? We're only going to have, because of the volume tonight, I stated the rules at the beginning, we're only having individuals comment for 3 minutes, so you can't come up twice.
All right.
And you do not yield the balance of your time or anything like that. It's not Congress.
My name is Michael Corman. I am a resident of Plymouth Township and live about 1.5 miles from this proposed development. And I'm a president of a company. We're a member of the Plymouth Chamber, and we have 6 locations in the greater Detroit area. I could live anywhere I wanted to live, and it would have worked out just fine as far as proximity to an office. We chose Plymouth. My wife and I chose Plymouth because we have a 2- and 4-year-old. And this is the greatest community to raise a family. And that's literally the only reason we're here. Community development aside, I know a city is going to grow. Horse racing aside, that type of stuff is going to happen. My concern is I live in the Andover Lakes community, which is right down the street. And there's a ton of kids in there. And the church is right there. There's another community right down the street. You see kids out on their bikes. And I've lived near horse race tracks before. And I don't care what anybody says, there's a safety concern. I've had friends in car accidents right outside of horse races. I've had a friend run over on a crosswalk, leaving the horse race tracks by a drunk driver. People go to these places. This isn't the Kentucky Derby with funny hats and people flying in on their jets. This is people coming in from all over, right off the highway up back to drink and gamble. And to each their own, don't care. But the fact is, they're going to be getting in their cars. My kids are going to be out on their bikes, and I don't want it around. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Gwen Miller. I live, I don't know, it's behind Arby's, the neighborhood there. I've lived in Plymouth 30 years. The first 21 years of my life, I lived in Ohio. My father had been in harness racing races. So I've known how to read the statistic, or,
The racing forum?
the racing form since I was 12 years old. I mean, I became quite the better on football when I moved to Michigan. And would win. So, but I've been going to races since I could remember. My dad had horses at the fair and everything else, which is why I'm actually against this. I watched Raceway Park die. I watched my dad, we still just went to he would go to every course that was up here when I first moved here. He would come up and I'd have to take him. And then they slowly closed and closed and closed. And Northville, the last couple times I drove by, once we went for my daughter's 4-H, it wasn't that busy. It was nothing like I remember when I was a kid going horse track. And I think that this is a losing or dying sport. And my dad was never mean to his horses, so I don't know where that information comes from. They were treated very well, but this is just not something we need. I mean, I would give anything if this township would have put in a community center or a rec center for the people a long time ago versus this. I had to take my kids out of town to go to a pool because the one at the park was it still central, so you couldn't use it all the time. You had to find special places to go to that. The community centers in the other towns are so nice. Livonia's got a great one. I just think that this is a losing, dying sport, and it's just going to be a waste of money.
Okay, thank you.
I don't think so. He did at the planning commission.
Oh, you haven't spoken yet, right? Yeah, you were at the planning commission. Yes. Okay, that's.
Yeah, they all look alike after a while.
First thing I'm going to talk about, my name's Jeff Peters, I live in Ridgewood Hills. I'm glad that at this meeting, we haven't threatened by the economic development coordinator as
We
we
can't
were.
understand you.
We can't understand you.
Pardon me?
We can't understand you. You either got it too close.
Okay,
Or
sorry.
you need to slow down.
I'm glad that we haven't been threatened by the economic development coordinator about putting something nastier on this property as we were at the planning commission meeting. There is no justification for this racetrack. There is no financial justification, and the social ramifications are potentially enormous. The financial justification that we've been given is $250,000 to $300,000 in breakage fees, which are basically the few cents that the person who wins gets taken out of his thing and goes to Plymouth Township. As I understand it, there are no property tax collections for a number of years. And that $250,000 to $300,000 will be eaten away by public safety expenses. Most certainly. My understanding is it costs about $160,000 for one extra police car between pay, benefits, police car, gas, insurance, and so forth. On top of that, we have, at the last meeting, and the thing that really bugs me is at the last meeting, we had the vast majority, probably 85% of the people that stood here were against this project. A very small percentage were for the project. Yet the planning commission, maybe they're not supposed to take into account what the public thinks. I don't really know. Unanimously approved it. In spite of just a few people who either didn't live here or had something to do with horses, or one guy who said he's been looking for a place for kids to play soccer. I think he did too many headers with the soccer ball. Traffic will be brutal. Crime, the next thing you're going to want to put is a Meijer next door. The crime in the Northville parking lot, Meijer at 8 Mile and Haggerty is cars are stolen, people are raped, goes on and on. And quite frankly, that's what we're going to find here, I believe. No justification. I moved out of Canton 10 years ago to Plymouth Township because this is a place where people live. Some people come to work here, some people come to recreate here, and then they go home. That's what Plymouth Township is all about. Plymouth Township is not about having racetracks or things of that nature, bars and what have you. That's not what we come to live in Plymouth Township for. Thank you.
My name is Anthony Costa. I live in the Oregon Trail neighborhood off of Sheldon Road. The board's saying that, they can approve things, whatever, 6, 7 coffee shops, they don't care. They're not here to judge, if something's successful or not. But I would argue that if this massive development is a huge failure, like most other horse tracks have been, obviously we've seen them all close, it presents a community image issue. We may have another Kmart on our hands. How many people want to keep driving by? You can't hear me? Sorry. I think that another failed business of this magnitude just presents another community issue. You're going to have issues bringing other businesses into the area. We're trying to get $25 million to redo that corridor. You said that you've been trying this for 5 years. What happens if that doesn't go through? Are we going to just scrap this, or how does that work? It just seems like we're doing this way too fast. It's all about money. $250,000 is not a lot of money for a township. I mean, you're acting like this is $10 million. This is small peanuts. Okay. So I just think that this is going way too fast. And, again, the animal abuse issue is heavy on my heart, but I know a lot of people don't care about that. So I'm not going to harp on that too much. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mickey Giunsolo, and I'm the resident of Plymouth downtown. So I live Union Street. So I live in community for a long time. I'm running the youth club in Plymouth over 20 years. And I just want to mention a few things. When I saw proposal, it was like considered by the youth soccer fields. I was extremely excited. It was considered. Just knowing we struggle, I run the club and we have over 400 kids in my program. And I know recreational program have over like 500 kids. So it's over 1,000 kids playing soccer with 2 11-11 soccer fields in our area. And one 7 versus 7 field we have. We're using the schools for the training session, which is very poor and not usable. And we struggle for green areas. I was extremely excited when I hear it was considered by you guys. So I just want to thank you for that.
All right, thank you.
Anna Steele, Plymouth Township resident.
You can hold it up.
I'm sure. First of all, I came a little bit late, so I apologize. And I'm sure you can just interrupt me if you need to, if I've repeated something. But when I came in, Bob, you were talking about upholding the law, specifically in regards to the PDs and what your job is, versus personal beliefs. And that, as a factual statement, was brought up the last time you brought in another Board of Trustee member. Will you uphold the law, or will you go with your personal beliefs? And I believe the answer was my personal beliefs. Admittedly. So, as someone who sits out here and says, we're going to uphold the law, or we're going to go with our personal beliefs, I'm not sure that what you're saying is exactly accurate for every member.
I'm sorry, Anna, I can't hear you.
So, are we going to be upholding the law and sticking to the PUD requirements, or is it going to be based on personal beliefs? It's a big deal. And it's a really big deal when our economic developer got up and said what he said. I'm not going to go over every bit of what he said, but we talk about Plymouth being about our people, yet he stands up and says the words, wait up, you know what I'll do? I'll put something in there that will make you all cry.
Yeah.
Now, I'm happy to play it from my phone if you want, Supervisor Heisey. I'm not going to, because you know it's there, and Dennis Chabalski apologized on his behalf. I don't accept an apology, and I don't think anyone should accept an apology on someone else's behalf for what he said. These are the things that are putting doubts in your community on how you're going to vote and your integrity. And I don't mean you specifically, but overall, what the people are asking is that you take a look at this. We had a supervisor who came in to the Planning Commission meeting, and your words, this is the second time in only 7 years that I've come to a Planning Commission level meeting. And I'm asking you to push this through so that we can handle things at the board level. I don't know why that is, but it makes me very uncomfortable. If you've only come twice in 7 years, it must be extremely important to you. You cannot say stricken from the record once something is said in this type of situation. You asked your planning commission to push it through.
Your time is up.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, it's the real sign. All right. Okay, anybody new who wants to speak? All righty then. What's the pleasure of the board at this point? Do we want to take a recess, or do we want to, somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
All right.
I thought some people wanted a recess.
No, you already have, so
I'm good.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion.
Sure.
I move to adopt Resolution 2023-02-28-14, authorizing the approval of the planned unit development option for the Northville Downs of Plymouth project as unanimously recommended by the Planning Commission, subject to further refinement of the plans as identified in the Planning Commission's February 15, 2023 motion, and subject to any necessary modifications identified by the Township Fire Department and Township Engineer.
Okay, motion's made by Clerk Forva. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Buckley. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Come on, don't we want to have some discussion? I have some things to say.
Okay,
Go ahead.
No one else has anything to say?
Apparently not.
Apparently not, okay. It's amazing.
Well, we've
Something this important.
been here for 2 hours, and we've heard a lot of testimonies, Chuck, so.
All right, 2 hours for a lifetime.
All right, Chuck, come on.
Anyway, okay, I'm gonna just say a few things.
All right.
And hopefully it'll fall on some positive ears. I forgot to have that on. Anyway, the saga of this parcel is long, complex, and filled with bad judgments from the beginning. Plymouth Township got the parcel in a tax sale. We owned it. A lot of people don't know that, from the city of Detroit. And then we're subjected to great timing pressure by Signature Associates, the real estate firm, Kurt Heisey and Heitman, saying there was a strong demand. We should approve the sale of this property so it'll make an integral part of MITC. It was sold on the first and only offer we had to Hillside, which was Roth. Hillside demanded urgent site plan and tax abatement approvals. Hillside made a large investment in infrastructure, but the demand for the lots never materialized. The township does not have an obligation to change the approved plan because Hillside made a bad business decision or had bad market conditions luck. This and all other proposed MITC projects do not meet the intention of MITC desired projects, which were life sciences, engineering and sales offices, engineering labs, and light manufacturing. All current proposals create many temporary, non-aspirational, low-pay jobs and high high traffic, warehouses, mire, and the horse track. These proposed projects produce low economic value-added outcomes. Gambling could be considered a negative value-added operation, and gambling transfers wealth from the poor to the rich. The projected revenue to the township will be substantially offset by added police services, increased traffic and traffic wait times, increased criminal activity. Our police chief told us that there was 100 calls a year on average in Northville City. Ironically, the Northville City police chief said that wasn't very many. If I had a business where I had 100 calls to the police a year, I'd be nervous. The proposed community benefits will only benefit a small number of township residents. All of these things reduce the quality of life, the traffic. For decades, Plymouth has enjoyed lower crime and traffic levels versus surrounding communities. The township has been a destination for work, not crime-attracting shopping or entertainment venues. Efforts were made to preserve the downtown Plymouth retail and entertainment district for many years in our planning. Due to the brownfield setup on this parcel, a significant tax revenue will not flow to taxing authorities for decades from now. I urge a no vote. Let's be patient and wait for a more suitable investment in Plymouth Township that improves our long-term quality of life and continues to make Plymouth a great place to live and work.
Okay. What? I can't hear you. So since my name was mentioned in those remarks, I do feel the need to clarify a couple things. And one is that the property in question here was briefly owned by Plymouth Township due to an illegal transfer of the property due to a tax foreclosure that was initiated by the former Township Treasurer, Ron Edwards, with the knowledge of the supervisor, Shannon Price, and possibly with the knowledge of people on this board. And they were caught, and they were sued by Wayne County, who should have been the property, who should have been responsible for the tax administration of that property. Plymouth Township was sued by the city of Detroit, who was the rightful owner, and their agents, and Wayne County. The township appealed all the way to the Michigan Supreme Court and lost every step of the way.
But it was not this
because
piece.
it was
the other piece.
Because it was obtained illegally, Chuck, and we had to agree to a court order. We had to stipulate to a court order, which we have copies of, and we had to sell the property. We were ordered by the court to sell the property, and that's how Hillside got involved. And the part of that was that we had to build a water main, and we did at least get reimbursed for our attorney fees, so we had a little win on that. But otherwise,
We could have kept it if we paid off the mortgage.
that's the story of that property, and we were sued every step of the way, all the way. And Shannon Price, by the way, the former supervisor, is now the lobbyist for Bobby Shostak, who is going to redevelop Salem Township. So just want to throw that out there too. Anyway, anybody else on the board?
We have a motion and.
We have a motion seconded. I'll take the roll.
Clerk Borba, yes. Trustee Buckley?
Yes.
Trustee Kermy?
No.
Trustee Monahan?
Yes.
Treasurer Dorchevitz?
Treasurer.
Yes.
Treasurer.
Supervisor Heisey?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you very much. Do we want to keep moving? I say we keep moving.
Keep moving.
Yeah, keep moving.
All right, so as part of the next item, as we've said in numerous public forums and emails, the next step for the board is also to consider a community benefit agreement with the applicant.
You want to take a
And
break?
so, no, I have to keep talking. I mean.
Well, just take a few minutes and let them leave.
No, it's, we have to keep talking, so. So the community benefit agreement is the next step in the process. What I'm looking for tonight, I've laid out some ideas on what a community benefit agreement might look like. And what I'm looking for tonight would be a motion to authorize myself and the township attorney to sit down with the applicant to work out some of the terms and conditions of what a community benefit agreement might look like.
Kurt, how do you negotiate when you don't have any leverage? The PUD's been approved.
The PUD has not been approved,
No,
and
it's
you
not.
know
Have you
that,
not
and
read
you
the
know
book?
that. All
You
we've
have
done
not read-
tonight
you
is
have
go,
not
is
read.
authorize it.
Correct me, I'm not
I'm
talking
sorry,
to
you
you.
have not read.
Wow, do you treat everybody like that?
PUD,
Hey,
Folks, we're in the middle of a meeting.
we're in the middle of a meeting here, thanks.
the contract is not settled, but
The
your
PUD is not
leverage
settled.
to get a tentative contract is gone.
You don't know that. So, anyway, that's the motion that I'm looking for. We've already discussed this in closed session with our attorney.
This has to come back to us.
Oh,
Yes,
absolutely,
yes,
yeah. I mean, I'm not agreeing to any of this stuff tonight.
No, it comes back.
Yes, it comes back.
I have a motion.
Sure.
I move that the Board of Trustees authorizes the township attorney and supervisor to develop and draft a community benefit agreement between the Charter Township of Plymouth and Northville Downs LLC, said agreement to be formally approved by both parties at a later meeting of the Township Board.
All right, so motion's made by Clerk Vorva. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Monahan. Any comments or questions by the board? All right.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
The free advertising on our time, you're gonna have to clear that with the people we have the contract for the billboards.
Yeah. We do that all the time.
I know, but this is everything else is for nonprofit, not for profit. This is for profit business.
So far, they've never,
Yeah, but you've never
turned
done
us
it,
down.
have you done it for a for-profit business? I can't think of it.
I,
Yeah, but all the businesses
we've done it for
benefit from it.
Plymouth Ice, we've done it for Plymouth
Yeah, but
Ice
those-
Fest.
I know,
But that's for profit.
it's not a specific, it's not a
Plymouth-
specific business
Yeah,
entity.
yeah. I mean, it's to drive people downtown to have fun and spend money, so.
That's what it's for, business.
Any other comments? All right, so there's a motion on the table, it's been moved and seconded. Take the roll.
Trustee Buckley,
Yes.
trustee Kermy,
Yes.
trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Treasurer Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Clerk Borba, yes. Motion carries.
Okay. So now we're going to move on to the third phase of public comment, because we have a lot at these meetings, and again, limited to 3 minutes. This is something that if you want to come up and speak, if you want to, on any topic.
Except for,
Well, I mean, we can be flexible on that,
Okay.
so,
They can speak on anything in the end.
yeah. Okay, hearing none, then we're going to move on to board comments, and we'll start, who wants to go first? Do we have any volunteers? Bob?
So today was the last day for tax collections. So for real property, in the summer, we collected 99.5%, winter 97.7%, for combined of 99% of the taxes have been paid. For personal property, we did 96.8% of the summer, 92% of the winter, so combined 95.7%. And overall, we've collected 99.2% of the summer and 97.4% of the winter, for a combined total of 98.89%. In other words, of 75, we had $78 million, $78.3 million to collect, and we've collected 77.4, so we've done well.
Okay.
Any questions?
Board of Review is going to start up soon? Do you
Yeah,
want to?
doesn't it start third week of March?
Yeah, so everybody should have received their property tax assessments.
Just got it today.
Just got it
I didn't
today.
know
Yeah.
that.
So then, don't open it. So what we're going to do in the spring newsletter should hit probably in the second week of March. And at that point, we're going to have a page just dedicated to Prop A and the fact that everybody's property taxes in Michigan are going up by 5%. And that's due to the automatic triggers. Could you, rats. And it's due to the automatic triggers of Prop A. So Prop A was voted in by the voters in 1994, and it holds property tax increases to the rate of inflation or 5%, whichever is lower. So unfortunately, we now are faced with the highest inflation in recent history. The inflation has not been this high since the 1970s. And the two-year rolling average.
80s.
Well.
Yeah, early.
Well, okay,
82,
1980.
81.
All right, okay. So the two-year rolling average as determined by the state of Michigan is 7.9%, which means that tax increase this year will be 5%. It'll probably be 5% again next year as well. So that will be reflected in your statement that you receive, and we'll provide more information on that so folks can be aware of that. So I took into your time there, so. Bob, are all set?
I'm good, man.
All right, man. Okay, Jennifer Buckley, how you doing?
I've got quite a few things to say.
You do?
I do, yeah. So, so first off, I haven't said much in the last couple of hours, but as is pretty commonplace, when people strongly disagree with something, they're going to come out in droves. That doesn't mean that we're not representing the people. I would like to just make that point because I do my own research. I have also talked to the community to get their opinions about things. Just because the community came out tonight, got up on the podium, doesn't mean I'm not representing them. Okay, I just want to put that out there. The second thing is I'm a mother of 8 children. Okay, I came to Plymouth Township for family as well. Been here for 6 years, very happy to raise my 8 kids here. And we're very excited about the idea of going to the horse races this summer. We find it to be an exciting, I grew up in Santa Anita, California, where we went as a family and had picnics and would watch these things. I think the community benefit is also amazing. I stand by that. Also, the business hours that I keep, I would just like to put out there, if you would like to call me and give me your opinion, please make it during business hours. I am a mother. I have 6 children at home. So please keep it, the laughing is it's just very rude. It really is, honestly.
Welcome to politics.
Yeah, clearly. So at any rate, that's where I stand on that. If you would like to discuss anything with me, also since I'm new on the board, if you send an email and I didn't respond, I apologize. I will do better at that as well. Thank you.
Is somebody
Audrey?
laughing?
Audrey?
Yes, I just wanted to thank everyone that came out today from wherever you're from, okay? Because we can't just live in a bubble thinking that this does not affect anyone else in our surrounding communities, okay? Because it does. I too am a mom of 4 kids. I'm an attorney and I'm a pharmacist. I work really hard and I do my homework. There are a lot of people that were for this. Those are the kinds of emails that I've got. I also got some that were not. And I took the time to read all of them. Now, I'm uniquely on this board where I'm the one that's the closest to this. I already complained about the Ridge Road traffic because of the dump trucks going to someone's wise idea to put over, a facility for, taking garbage from Canada, okay? I didn't like that either. But at the end of the day, I just have one voice. I can voice my opinion, and that's what we do. We voice our opinion. Why I decided to vote for this tonight, and it's not all over, by the way. I want you to just understand that. We're not at the end of this. There are a lot more details to come out. In other words, read what was down here today, okay? We have to go through everything that's going to be for the community's benefit, okay? And when I look at things that are good for the township residents or surrounding communities, it's about benefit, okay? I'm not going to tell you my personal opinion on racing. I will tell you I didn't like Plymouth, and somebody laughed at me about that. I didn't like Lover's Lane being put put as a store down on Ann Arbor Road either. Nobody asked me about that, okay? So my point is, we are all in a community together. We are going to have some things we like and some things we don't. And I can only speak for myself. I tried the best I can do with the information I have to represent you the best way I can. I'm not going to be perfect at it, but I'm sure going to be tried. There was only one person who walked this earth who's perfect, and that's Jesus Christ. I'm not him, okay? But my door is open. I answer emails when I can. I was in a horrible mediation today all day, so if you sent it to me today, I apologize. I did not get to you, okay? But I want you to know that we do take this seriously. This isn't something we just came up and said, you know, I don't care about soccer parks for my kids now. My youngest is 20 and he's in college, okay? But I care about it for our community. Why? Because you care about it, okay? And that was one of the things that grabbed me about this project, was the benefit to the community in terms of having extraordinary events at this particular site. Now, I'm hoping that people, and sometimes when I will look back and think, well, will this really get to be where we want it to be? You know what? For the success that we're having and our community and the Plymouth community in general, we're doing well, okay? We're not going to steer you, you know, blind. This is what the people want of the township, and my opinion doesn't matter in terms of what it is that I want personally, okay? And I live off of Ridge Road, by the way, so I don't have just the lights to contend with. I'm gonna have the noise coming off of the cars. But you know what? I could be selfish and say no, and who am I representing then? Only myself. I could say I don't like gambling, and then who am I representing? Only myself. I'm not running for judge here. That would be different. I have to uphold the law, okay? So I want everyone to know, you come to me, you'll get it straightforward for me, what it is that I think. And hopefully we can work together. And if you have any ideas about what you want to see happen at that park that will improve the vision over there, please email me. And I will take it to the supervisor. Thank you.
Thank you. John Stewart.
Thank you.
All set? Okay. Mr. Kermy.
I have nothing other than, you know, on the newsletter, your phone number is Jack Dempsey's greeting. You may want to fix that on the newsletter.
Oh, yeah, I have everything to do with the newsletter. Thank you for telling me that, though. Who's
Sue Brands.
Okay, would you please? Thank you.
Well, is that your home number or the township number?
No, what it is, it's the township number that was formerly Jack
Okay,
Dempsey.
so the voicemail.
So people have been telling me, how do I get a hold of
All right. No,
Well,
I mean,
there you
Monahan?
go.
And I said, call the phone number, and they said it's
all right.
Jack
so
Dempsey.
The voicemail hasn't been changed. Okay.
Blame Jack.
All right. Jerry Vorva. I'm going to blame Jerry Vorva.
Oh, good. I deserve it. Again, thank everybody for coming out this evening. We do appreciate everyone attending and you voicing your opinions. It's one of the things that makes this country great. So we do really appreciate that. I had a meeting today with a number of the clerks in Wayne County in Westland. The clerk there, Mr. LeBlanc, set up a meeting of all the Wayne County clerks, and the Wayne County clerk was there and her administration, and we're having to deal with the new laws on elections, which are, this is a whole new thing. Boy, you say, I didn't sign up for that job.
Is that why the Northville clerk resigned?
Yes, yeah, and there's a number of other ones that are resigning because this is you like talk about changing a job description, but we met and we're trying to brainstorm our way through all of the changes. The legislature is also making all kinds of recommendations and proposals, and we're having to try to intercede on behalf of the voting public and the clerks in order to make it work right. Some of the things they're proposing are interesting, I might say, but I don't think are effective or good for the voting public. So we're working on that, and just bear in mind that this is something that over 60% of the people voted for, and it's going to get expensive. The election process is going to skyrocket in cost, and that's just The people voted for it. It's now part of the Constitution, and so it's going to cost a lot of money. So thank you very much.
Okay. Everybody else has had a chance, so.
Somebody asked a question?
Is it secure?
Oh, yes, yeah. This is going to be a secure process. The process has been secure. We will make sure that it continues to be that way.
Okay, well, this is not a debate.
Yeah.
This is not a debate. Sorry.
There was nothing
Okay,
wrong with
so,
the Dominion machines.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Jerry.
no, sir.
So, okay, our next meeting will be March 14th, and we'll have a few things on there. We'll be having an appointment to the Environmental Leadership Commission. We have the intergovernmental agreement with Wayne County for the Parks millage. We're getting about $70,500 from Wayne County. Parks millage is our money, basically, that they're giving back to us. We also just need to address what we call the Dempsey Fund, which is, for those of you who were not on the board in 2019, Jack Dempsey, former trustee, and former treasurer Clinton developed a resolution that effectively sequestered $129,000 of the 2018 police and fire millage. I think he was afraid that it was going to get misspent, or Heisey was going to buy another fire truck or some nonsense like that. And that money was basically just held in abeyance, and it's been sitting there now for 4 years. So we'd like to, that was one of our goals. I don't know how it got rated, but one of our, certainly our objective should be to take that money and use it in some proper way, consistent with the resolution from 2019, as well as the clear language of the public safety millage. So
May we, for this meeting, have some projection of how it will affect our OPEB if we pour the money in there, which is what I favor to do, is put it into OPEB to reduce those liabilities.
yeah, it should.
Like to see what the effect is.
Yeah, it should either go into OPEB or a pension, but we're kind of thinking that over right now. What's the best route?
So bring data, please.
Yes, sir.
MERS.
Let's see, and then sidewalk public hearing, Jerry, is going to be April 11th.
Yes.
And then we're going to do.
The repair.
That's for the second. That's for this year's sidewalk replacement program. Yeah, which I think is my neighborhood now, Jeremy. Right? Yes, Jeremy.
Yes.
So, and then we're also going to do the sidewalk bid award that night. Okay.
Including the Amber Trail sidewalk?
Yeah.
That's all. That's the GAP project.
The GAP.
Ann Arbor Trail GAP project was awarded last year.
Okay, so we don't have to revisit that.
No, nope, that's all set.
They
We're gonna
ran
start
out.
construction soon.
They ran out of concrete, basically, right?
Ran out of concrete, ran out of time, so delayed it to this year, but they honored the prices for this year, so we're gonna move forward with it.
Do you have a date?
They're already working on clearing trees, but the actual construction won't start till the spring, April, late April, early May.
Okay. Let's see. That's all I have for tonight. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Supervisor, you're doing a very
What did I
good
do?
thing. I'm very sincere. You're doing a very good thing tomorrow night at Phoenix Mill.
Oh, yeah.
My
Jeez.
wife will be with you for an
Yeah.
hour and a half. She did the research.
You know, that's a great point, John. Thank you for reminding me. We have two events happening tomorrow morning. We have, first of all, Coffee with a Cop at the Red Olive on Ann Arbor Road. Fix that pothole out in front. It's a horrible, it's never ending. Thank you. I've whacked it a couple times. So, Coffee with a Cop tomorrow morning at 9 at Red Olive on Ann Arbor Road. And then tomorrow night from 6 to 7:30 at Phoenix Mill, we are having a town hall informational session with Friends of the Rouge and the Alliance of Rouge Communities and Wayne County Parks, because the Rouge Alliance received a lot of money. I don't know how much. They're going to hopefully tell us tomorrow night to restore and rehabilitate Phoenix Lake and Wilcox Lake. And so when they had a public meeting a few months, about a month ago, they had it in downtown Plymouth and it was standing room only. So there's definitely a lot of public interest. They just kind of neglected to invite anybody from the townships. And we actually, between Plymouth and Northville Township, we kind of dominate those two lakes. So we're trying to find a way to get people involved in volunteering. This is going to be more of a high-end cleanup There's a lake to the east of us in Livonia. I think it's
Newburgh.
No, Nankin Lake.
No,
Newburgh,
yeah.
Newburgh was cleaned up a long time ago. But Nankin Lake, if you
With the
drive
big
by there.
bags
The
stacked
big
up on the
bags.
road.
So it's going to be that kind of thing where there's going to be a lot of dredging and dewatering. But there's also going to be some opportunities for individuals to get personally involved and get dirty and do some cleanup work. So that's going to be tomorrow night at Phoenix Mill, the beautifully restored Phoenix Mill, which is one of our township's brownfield projects. And that will be from 6 to 7:30. Did I miss anything else, Mr. Stewart?
No, you are correct,
Yeah.
and I don't, spousal privilege, there is a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
That will be discussed tomorrow night, and I want to give my wife, Beth Stewart, credit for doing a lot of research and homework, and between the two of you, we're going to accomplish a lot,
Okay,
tomorrow night.
good, all
I will
right.
not be there, though.
Okay.
Also quickly, Saturday, Military Appreciation Night at USA Hockey Arena. I'll be in the suite with Chief Nightel.
Wow.
Excited for that.
You'd think you're a veteran.
You didn't know, right?
You'd think you're a veteran or something, huh?
Yeah.
Honestly. All right, well, that's great. So a lot
Motion
going
to,
on. Motion to adjourn by
motion
Mr.
to
Vorba.
adjourn.
Is there a second? Second by trustee Monahan. All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye. Aye. We are adjourned.